You are listening to the Done with Dieting podcast, episode number 11. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sherman, former corporate high-tech executive turned life and weight loss coach. But it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that I was searching for that perfect diet. You know, the one that would finally be the magic pill to lose the weight that I so desired. Fast forward past tons of failed diets, endless hours of exercise, and painful lessons learned. And although I still have not reached the state of nirvana body love bliss that I truly desire, my relationship with food, exercise, and my body is infinitely better than it was not only when I started this journey, but even as recently as 3 years ago. This journey has allowed me to ditch my scale, stop logging my food and exercise, eat food that wasn't prepared by me, and I can easily maintain my weight, something that I never thought was possible. I created the Done with Dieting podcast to give you simple, easy to do, and sustainable strategies and ideas to help you do the exact same thing without all of the drama that I went through. If you're a woman who's looking to create a better relationship with food, exercise, and her body, get off the diet roller coaster and free up all of that headspace spent on calories, how you look, what you should eat, and beating yourself up for not doing what you think you should be doing, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Now today I want to introduce you to a former client of mine turned friend and business bestie, Ryan Lanier. When this podcast was just an idea in my head and I was thinking about all of the different topics that I could talk about, that I could bring to you, that I could teach, and also who would be listening, I immediately knew that I needed to have Ryan on the show. Because even though she helps women who are going in 100 different directions to create the calm and more focus that they want in their lives, both of our messages just fit beautifully together. Ryan is a true delight, and I hope that you enjoy the episode because she gives really actionable steps that you can take if you're someone who just wants to slow everything down around her and know that it is possible. So let's get to it. All right. Welcome to the show. We have Ryan Lanier. I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Lanier.
Lanier?
Close enough. It gets a lot of that, morphing. It's all good. It's all good. If you're French, it would be Lanier. We're just Texans. So
okay, we're going to leave that in.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. Okay, Ryan, introduce yourself.
Well, hello. I am Ryan Lanier. I'm actually Elizabeth's biggest fan. That's my whole introduction, but we'll go a little further since we are talking. So we knew each other from Austin, Texas. When she was here, I was a client of hers in fitness. And then we realized that we had a lot more in common other than that. I used to do hands-on organizing with people in their homes, loved it. But then, we all know what happened, 2020. So that no longer became an option. So I pivoted my business to be online workshops. And I've realized that my passion revolves around championing women to sit down and get more done away from all the distractions that we all have. And as they get more done in community with each other, supporting each other, they figure out kind of what they want to do when they grow up. So these are all called the focus workshops. And I have a membership-based style business, and the community and the support is something that I did not even see coming because women are just amazing. So that's what I've been doing, bringing women together to get more done.
Very cool.
Makes sense.
Tell me, I don't even know, how did you get into in-home organizing? Let's start there.
Okay. So it's one of those things that so I'm a mom of 3 boys. I was a teacher. And then when I started having children, I realized that full-time teaching and momming were going to be hard for me to do both. So I got to stay home with my kids. And so that's a lot of organization right there, just keeping a house going, 3 children, fed, all the places they need to be. I was very involved in my community, shocker. And I knew how I felt when I was tapping into trying to get my own house organized. Fly Lady started me out. I really went through all the different organizers, my own self. And it was a feeling I couldn't avoid. Right. When I noticed the feeling I felt when I had organized a space or gotten something a lot better, that sort of started to percolate in my brain. And then I realized that that actually could be a business. And I started asking friends, can I help you organize? And the answer was always yes. And as I would work with women, especially in their closets, the closet itself is kind of the key to getting the woman prepared for her day. And when the closet is prohibitive of her starting her day off right, that makes a big, it's really like a fork in the road. As you were saying, we were talking about the athletic socks, right? If you can't find any socks to work out, guess what? You're not working out. So being in the closet and the kitchen, those are my two favorite areas to organize because it really sets the stage for productivity and just feeling like you have some chance at this day and then this life.
Yeah. And so it's so interesting. Like we were, Ryan and I were talking before we hit record. And I was saying that I really have always downplayed the role of environment because I know how important the other pieces that go along with creating health habits are. And that, one of the problems with relying on our environment is because it's something that we have to keep up. So, for example, one of the things that I talk about with my clients is in terms of, meal prep, that if we rely on the fact that every Sunday night we're going to prep all of our meals for the week, and then we go on vacation and come home on Sunday and we don't have time to prepare those meals, then everything kind of goes out the window. Obviously, we want to, focus on things that are more habit based. Like I know that I can still eat a healthy meal even if I eat out. So yeah, what are some of the things that people can do to make sure that their environment doesn't get away from them?
Simple, simple, simple.
What does that mean?
I feel that the more over engineered we think things need to be, the less likely we are going to do them. And that meal planning, just that word, triggers a lot of people. My population of women have 1,000 distractions with children and all those particular things. I don't just work with moms, but I am a mom. So, but the distractions are so great that when they think, oh, I have to meal plan, they are anticipating some giant beast, right? And when you just say, what are the three things I like to eat that will be nutritionally sound? That's good enough. Like, don't think it needs to be one of those multi-week things because then you won't even do anything. So I really feel like the simpler, the better. And then my book really helps people lay out the way to get things done easily. Like if you're going to do a meal and you need to chop the vegetables, you need to marinate something, you need to get the spices out. If you just start laying that stuff out, I call it a launch pad. And if you start getting the spices out and the stuff that is shelf stable and what dish you're going to use to cook it in, and you're already winning. And I found that it's also helpful. You can pass the job on eventually if you have the recipe out and all the things out. Oh, hey, look, you've got time. You're bored? Look, you can just make this happen. I've gotten everything out for you. So I feel like laying things out to help yourself be successful. And that this also goes with laying out your workout clothes. I mean, that's been around forever and it's still so true, is having the clothes out allows. But so it's really about simple. One meal that you made at home will make you feel like, okay, I can do this. And you build from small. And then one day you're like, oh my gosh, look, I plan like 5 meals. And you celebrating.
Yeah, it's so funny that you bring up the Launchpad because I was just talking to a client of mine yesterday about meal prep kits or those meal kits that you get in the mail, where they send you all the vegetables and things like that. And when we were moving from Austin to Mexico in that month before we moved, I decided to try a number of them just to see what they were like. And I really didn't have any faith that they were going to change my life or anything like that because I was already cooking. But what I loved about them was the fact that I just looked in the refrigerator every day and I was like, what are we going to have today? And then you pull out a bag.
Yes.
And so is that kind of what you're talking about when you're talking about a launch pad?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, you just create it yourself. I love the meal kits. They're, in my opinion, a little bit environmentally impactful with all the ice packs and all that. But if they help people cook more at home, that is amazing. And there's actually a company here in Austin, trashless.com, that is attempting to do those meal kits with everything reusable. And they even pick up your compost. People are trying to lessen the environmental impact of that, but the having it ready to go. I keep saying, like, when I get my produce delivery, I try very hard to not let myself just put the whole thing in the refrigerator. It's like, okay, can I just wash the lettuce and put it in the spinner? Like, just that small effort makes the likelihood of us using the lettuce before it goes bad about 10x higher. And cutting up a cucumber, if you put a cucumber in the refrigerator, there's nobody going to eat it. If you take a moment to peel it and slice it and put it in a container, magical how many more cucumbers you're actually going to eat. So that is what is the one simple step you can take to make sure you're actually going to do the healthy eating is cut a cucumber.
Yeah, you're totally right. No, and what you're talking about is what I call reducing friction, right? So
Yes.
if we want to do the thing, we need to figure out what are all the steps that are getting in my way of doing the thing and then make it that much easier. So
Absolutely.
if I want to eat more vegetables, making sure that those vegetables are ready to go and are accessible so that I'm more willing to eat that. Like, for example, if you're going to eat dinner, if you're going to prepare dinner, making eating dinner at home easier than calling up and ordering it. Right. Awesome. Good suggestions. Yep. Now, you brought something up that I want to go back to for just a second. You talked about recycling and reusing. That used to be something that was huge in your business. Talk more about that.
Well, it still is in a way, it was very much prompted by the fact that when I would organize in people's homes, I saw the volume of things that we were removing to go donate. And that was so impactful for them. They were grateful to get rid of stuff, but I noticed there were certain things they felt reticent about. And if I could say, oh, I know there's this thrift store that is all about craft supplies, they were like, oh my God, I haven't scrapbooked in years. I would be thrilled to know that we could donate that there. So it gives people a much grander purpose to know that when they donate things, that it's giving life to someone else. Somebody else wants it. So that became, to me, I wasn't comfortable. Well, no, okay. My standards were too high to just go straight from their house to one thrift store, which would typically be Goodwill because they take everything. And they also have an incredible pipeline of electronics, and like they're trying very hard to lessen their environmental impact as well. But I knew of local nonprofits or thrift stores that used particular things, and I knew it would benefit them. I'm all about the little guy. So that really motivated me to donate. Oh, I definitely heard that the school is collecting clothes for the kindergartners who get paint or have an accident. And that just became part of my vernacular. I could not keep that news from people. And it just grew in my heart and kept me in touch with the community's needs. And people love that. And it led me to the Buy Nothing Project. If you've never heard the Buy Nothing Project, you need to look that up, because that is like Craigslist free, but it's close enough in your neighborhood that you're not kind of driving all over the place. And it's a beautiful giving and receiving freely society. There's no trading, selling, bartering. It's just giving and receiving. And I'm such a nerd. I just wish the whole world worked that way. But that's kind of what got me really going in the organizing was people's cast-offs serving a second life. And I still use that in my own home. Plastic forks. I know somebody that takes them to the homeless shelter. I mean, it fills my heart.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's so cool. Okay. So switching gears a little bit, how do you tackle procrastination?
Ooh, wow.
I know.
Wow. That really, you okay. No prep on that one. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
So procrastination, right, is avoiding stress. We all know that is a stress avoiding, and it is also very aligned with perfectionism. It's another P. And people don't want to do something if they don't think they're going to do it perfectly. And therefore they do nothing. So it's an ugly cycle. It's an ugly cycle. And from where I come from, people, when they procrastinate, they identify as a procrastinator. So therefore they are identifying as somebody who isn't doing a great job at life. And that kills me. That absolutely kills me. So I encourage people to progress over perfection is such a maybe overused term, but it's super impactful. If you really stop for a minute and say, all right, done is better than perfect. What would done look like? It's making one meal. It's taking one walk. It's amazing how we blow the things that we want to do, the habits that we want to create into these giant projects. But they start with one step and you're procrastinating because you don't know what the one step is that you need to take. And sometimes the one step is taking a sticky note, or for some people, obliging themselves to someone. Hey, I really want to take a walk today and I'm afraid that I'm going to let myself down. Can I tell you that I'm going to take a walk today? And then either I remember to tell you, or maybe you're awesome and you remember to text me later and ask. And yet there's no judgment, right? We're only judging ourselves. I think we procrastinate because we're judging ourselves, that we're already disappointing ourselves because we're not going to do it the perfect way. But we got to let that shiz go. We have to let it go and break. Again, simple. Procrastination is because we're blowing it up in our head too much. So what is literally the microest of micro steps you can do? Celebrate. Then what's the next micro step? Celebrate. That's how I try to, and I call it overwhelm. I feel like procrastination and overwhelm are bedfellows and they are making each other strong in our brains. So to fight overwhelm is, what is that one tiny step I can take? We've been talking about this in my Facebook group. And boy, overwhelm is beastly. It's beastly. And when you talk about it, it dissipates quite a bit. And other people feel it. That's my other giant love is we are better together. I am so much more successful when I know somebody else suffers with, I'm distracted by this, or, oh, I didn't do this. When misery has miserable company, we're all like, oh, I'm not alone in my suffering. And that sounds a little bit strong, but you know what I mean? When other people feel what you feel, you just feel validated and you're like, okay, I'm not that special. I'm going to do the one thing so I can move forward.
Well, yeah, I think that what you're saying is actually so beautiful. I love that, because when we procrastinate, that impacts our self-esteem, right? That we feel poorly about ourselves. We're like, why can't I do that when I know it's just so freaking easy? And so then we also have this cloud of shame. And to quote Brene Brown, shame cannot exist in the light of day, right? That when we talk about our shame, everyone's like, oh, girl, come on. Everyone has that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so interesting that you say, procrastination and overwhelm go hand in hand, because they definitely do. Sometimes I think that we also have a level of confusion too, like, and we don't sometimes break tasks down to their microscopic level. So for example, if on my to-do list, it's do taxes, right? that's just so enormous that maybe the first step is log into my bank account and download all of my transactions so that I can see what they are, or gather my W-2s together, or, what is the first step that we need to take in order to accomplish that task?
Amen, sister. You said it perfectly. I do talk about that a lot in my group. It's like, don't write that, do taxes. Wow. What? Of course you're going to procrastinate on that. That seems like a huge task, but literally log into my bank account. Wow. That I can do. And there's never anything that's too small. I think that we don't give ourselves enough love to think, anybody can log into their bank account. So what? You still have to do it, and you can still celebrate that little moment.
Yeah. And so I read The Calm Method. I love the book.
Thank
and
you.
One thing that you keep talking about is celebration. And I don't think that we celebrate enough. And so talk more about celebration, why we should do it, what we should celebrate, and how.
How much more time do we have?
We have all the time in the world.
So the Calm Method was birthed out of my chaos about a year ago, actually. And when I realized that there were so many simple steps, thank you for the compliment on my book, by the way. When I realized there were simple things I could do that would set me up proactively to, in my opinion, stop sucking so much, being late, not prepared, all of that, I was able to make huge changes just from those simple steps. And as I was putting the method together, putting two and two and two together, I realized that we want to be calm, but we also want to be proud of ourselves. And so the celebration, I love to say, yay me. I have had stickers made that say, yay me. Let's talk about your yay me moment in my communities and in my membership, because like you just said, we don't celebrate enough. And as women, we are not comfortable bragging on ourselves. Any man has no qualms about owning their awesomeness or whatever, something they've done. But we women, what do most women start a sentence with? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like that word, it turns me inside out because we're already coming to the conversation as less than and discounting where we are. And I've also been called the positivity police because I won't let people get away with that, because it's not something we're doing intentionally. It's a habit, and it's a habit we need to unlearn. So the opposite of starting out with, I'm sorry, is I'm awesome. Here's something awesome I did today that is small. Journaling. If you journal a lot, or if you get a printed journal that comes to you, when somebody you love, they all have created a journal, and there's a lot of affirmations in there. And those are based around celebrating. My favorite planner right now is the Panda Planner. And they actually have a little checkbox on there for you write down your wins for the day. And then it says, celebrate, doing the good thing it's only about 75%. If you ask me, it's the celebrating. How many times do you do a workout and you tell somebody about it because you're so proud of yourself, right? And you're moving around in your chair, like, oh, I'm so sore. Oh yeah, it's because it worked out. I love being sore from a workout, and I wish it happened more. But celebrating for yourself is important, but sometimes we forget. So celebrating with people, if that gets you a little bit more cognizant of celebrating. So that's accountability partners. I mean, heck, that's what social media is for. It's okay. We love to celebrate other people. So put it out there. In my book, I talk about getting the crew into the car to go to the place. When you finally get in the car and you're ready to go, if you just peel out, you don't get that chance to celebrate. So getting in the car, putting your hands on the steering wheel and going, yeah, we're all in the car alive and prepared, and let's go. So there is no lack to celebrating. I won't say there's no lack. I'm sorry. There's no limit to the types of celebration. The more, the merrier. The happy dance, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, I love that. And what I hear you saying is that it's really just acknowledging, right? It doesn't have to be big and flowery. It just has to be, hey, I did this and I'm proud.
A fist pump. I was just reading an email from Mel Robbins, who I adore, and she started high-fiving herself in the mirror every morning. And how simple and seemingly small, but I'm not going to go into brain chemistry, but is celebrating absolutely stimulates good brain chemistry and sets you up for more improvement. I mean, the post-workout feels right. You never want to do it. It's hard when you're doing it, but boy, afterwards, there is nothing to do but celebrate.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So let me ask about going into the calm method a little bit more. Have you ever read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think it's chapter 2, he talks about the urgent, important matrix, right? And so for those of you who are listening, it's 4 quadrants, and the columns are urgent, non-urgent, and then the rows are important, unimportant. And where we want to spend most of our time is in the important, non-urgent area, that we don't want to spend any time in the unimportant areas. And we don't really want to spend a lot of time in the urgent, important, because that's crisis mode. And I think that a lot of people spend their time in crisis mode, right? How do we get from crisis mode, where we feel like life is hitting us around, to getting in control of our circumstances and our life? Is that a big question?
No, because it's literally what my book is about, right? Okay. It is the calm method. It backs you up to preparing to stay out of quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 is the hair on fire, the last minute, we can't find a document. When you can't find a document, or a document expires without leaving yourself enough time, then you have bought yourself more time in the urgent and important role. But when you prepare, because you're in quadrant 2, which is not urgent but important, you allow yourself for more calm. I mean, I keep using the word calm, but the stress factor of when your hair on fire, it's leading up, it's during, and it's after. Like, there's a lot of energy you burn through your energy because you're stressed, you're panicked, you're in a hurry, you're probably going to mess up, you're going to have to redo things again. Whereas with the calm method, you have looked at your calendar and put it on the calendar to prepare. You've set an alarm to remind you to prepare. You've laid out the launch pad, which is putting out the documents or logging into the bank account or whatever, all the things that help you to be able to do said task in a calm and proactive manner, instead of our typical last minute method. And it's not always our fault. Distractions and stuff pop up all the time. So that is why when you back up and intentionally try to stay ahead of the game on some things, you're at least 75% there. Planning for your day, right? At the end of the day, when you look at your day for tomorrow and you at least see what's on your Google Calendar and you write that down, and you at least see what your top 3, your must-do tasks are, at least if you have that idea, when somebody needs you to, oh my gosh, I need, this happened to me yesterday. I had to go buy whiteboard markers. We did not have the thickest whiteboard. All of a sudden there was an errand that was not on my list at all, and it needed to be taken care of. So the fact that I knew when I had to be somewhere at a certain time, I could say, okay, do have time to go run this thing that was not already on my list, because that stuff's going to happen all the time. So that's quadrant 1. That was urgent and important to someone else, not me, but that took away from my current projects. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny that you're talking about this, or that I didn't intend to ask in this way, but in the book, you talk about having to bring your kids' tennis bag to school. Yes. And I remember when we were working together that you totally missed like a number of workouts, or you weren't able to do things that were important to you because you were running to the school to bring your kids, I think it was uniform at the time.
You are so right. I had forgotten that. And, with the call method, that would not have been a thing, right? We would have, I didn't have the call method back then. And I have been doing a lot of self-reflection lately going, wow, this thing works. It's so simple. And living in reactive mode for yourself is bad enough. But then most of us have lots of other distractions that are coming up just to layer on, just layer it on. So having a little bit of a plan just ups your chances. We're never going for perfection here, ever. Perfection is not a goal. It's progress and the celebration to build the next time. Oh yeah. Remember how I missed that workout with Elizabeth because so-and-so didn't have their uniform? Well, I do not want that to happen again because I miss my joy all day long of having gotten up at whatever freaking early time that we did that. And that just, set me off on the wrong path. So we do learn from our mistakes, I think.
Well, yeah. And I think that for those of you who weren't maybe connecting the dots as to why organization is important, other than, having a chaotic life, that the more organized you are, the more time that frees up for you so that you can spend your brain power and time on taking care of yourself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you say, oh, I should take a walk today, or I'm going to take a walk when I have a free moment, well, guess what? That's just not going to happen. But if you go ahead and look at your calendar and go, okay, so I'm done with this podcast interview and I don't have another phone call until so-and-so, I'm going to just jump out there and get that walk done then. And then if it doesn't happen, maybe the next pocket of time. But if you never take that moment to intentionally say, okay, I've got these pockets of time to walk today, it won't happen. But when you intentionally set your brain on it, you're more likely. And guess what? If it doesn't happen, you are not a horrible person. I think that's another thing we do is we just go straight to, well, yep, there's another day. I did an exercise. Like you're coaching people all the time. And I know they're coming to you with that failure mentality and you're having to undo a lot of garbage head trash all the time in the health and fitness. And I'm doing it with the busy moms because we do too easily start tearing ourselves down. So that's why the micro simple celebrations I do think are super important.
Well, and I love the name that you give that, like the head trash monster. That's hilarious.
Oh man, the head trash monster does not sleep.
It doesn't.
Works full time, committed.
Well, and, to your point, something that I talk a lot about with my clients is failure and reframing failure from a point of view. And I think that this actually goes along with you is when we look at failure, not as failure, but if we can get curious with it and say, what could I have done to set myself up for success? How can I learn from this? Then we can do better in the future.
Oh, you are speaking my language. I think reframing is super powerful because there's a word that if we say over and over and it brings us down, we're going to continue to bring down. Just quickly, one of my clients kept saying, oh, we're still in lockdown. We're still in lockdown. But they just added 8 more weeks to our lockdown. And I could just see her physically like draining from that word. And I'm like, all right, new word. Let's find a new word that is not the word lockdown. And we came up with limbo. We're still in limbo. They added 8 more weeks of limbo. And I'm telling you, that small reframe really changed her attitudes towards this lockdown. So that was really, really helpful. And the other thing is just, I feel like learning from our mistakes is if you don't learn from your mistake, you've missed the lesson completely. If you read my book, the lessons I was learning over and over is back up. What do you need to have with you when you leave the house? So you're leaving on time, prepared, and you can be calm. You're not that person that rushes into the room with their hair on fire and all these sorries and oh my gosh, and I'm a hot mess. I hate that term, a hot mess, because I don't want to say it's an excuse, but maybe it's a little bit, oh, I'm just a hot mess, right? Well, then you don't have to work on yourself if you're just a hot mess. What can you do better, but keep it small? Keep it small.
Well, and hot mess is That's an identity level thing. There's a concept that I talk about with my clients, which is called the NLP logical layers of change. And
Ooh.
it's kind of interesting that we're talking about this because environment, if you think about a pyramid and at the very top is environment, it's easy to set up your environment, but it doesn't affect change very much, especially if the bottom layer is I'm a hot mess. You will continually self-sabotage and do things that go along with that hot messness, if that's a word.
Yeah, I
So
like
you
it.
will create the beliefs and values that go along with being a hot mess. And it's not until you decide that, you know what, I'm not a hot mess anymore, or I do have my shiz together, that then we can instill real change that will allow us to get organized, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Boom.
in the book, you talk about self-care and you have one tip that I absolutely loved and I didn't even like think about doing it. But you say scheduling things far out in advance. And it's so important because when we do that, we're less likely to move that appointment that's already there. So
True.
let's talk a little bit more about self-care.
Oh, yes. Essential. That's another mentality that we as women, we almost feel like we have to ask permission to have self-care. And we also kind of perfectionism that one up too. Oh, self-care. Well, I have to have a spa day. Well, that's a little hard, right? A spa day could be taking a bath in your own home. It could be sitting on your back porch with a book because you want to. Like self-care is taking 30 minutes after a shower to just put on lotion and just have music on. Like that time, it is everywhere. Self-care is everywhere. It is not some giant, nebulous, difficult thing to find, but it is also something you want to look forward to. So yes, I do say to schedule your self-care farther out in the future, because then it is way more likely to stay on the calendar. And I mean, how many people are listening to this podcast and that have a gift card? Okay, let's don't even talk about 2020, but you have a spa gift card that you've not used. I mean, you 100% do. Or you have a restaurant gift card or a Lululemon gift card. Self-care could be putting that on your calendar and taking yourself on a little date and just having fun with that. And if you don't like to do that alone, get a buddy to go with you, because it's almost okay for us to go take people with us. It's just magical. And it's amazing how much we make that such a big deal in our head. Like, well, I'm not doing, or we just don't take, I think women just think we need permission. We have to ask permission. And I'm like trying to break, shatter that misinformation in our heads.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for women who feel guilty doing stuff like that?
Wow. So think about someone around you. Look at somebody that you respect for their self-care and look at how you're not judging them at all. You're like, good for them. If you respect that person for taking the self-care, there you go. That is your permission. Like, don't think that you are not entitled at all. You are. There's no right or wrong about it. It's essential. And think about how that it will feed you. It will feed, we talk about, putting on your own mask first or filling your own vessel. Like you cannot give from an empty vessel and you don't want to be cracking. So you have to fill your vessel and it's fun. It's fun. Choose things that just like you don't remember the last time you took a hike or put a hair mask on your hair and slept in all the yumminess. And then the next morning you take that shower and you're like, oh, my hair. Oh, so simple. Go in your bathroom right now and get that hair mask and put it on your counter and then put it on your calendar. I remember the first time I was coaching with one woman, we were talking about self-care and she was like, I've got this sample of a mud mask. I'm like, tonight you're doing it. And she sent me a picture of her face with the mud mask on. And then I was like, how hard was that? Right? It's just a small micro moment. And then you get to get rid of that little package that's floating around in your makeup drawer.
Oh my God, I am dying. This is hilarious. But you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right that we have all of those little samples and things like that. And they just create like this static, this reminder in our head of you're not doing enough or you're not good enough or any of that. And so yeah, this is amazing. Amazing. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your focus group, is it? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
How does that go along with CALM?
Okay. The population of women that I serve aren't necessarily 9-to-5ers. A lot of them are, but how many times, and a lot of them are trying to start a business. So how many times have you heard people say, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you better set those office hours, right? And because that is when you intentionally work on your business or your to-do list or whatever. But when you are not calm, running around reactive because you haven't set yourself a schedule, you are not going to get those things done day after day, week after week. So I started I was having paper organizing retreats that were actually like long days on Saturdays where people were bringing all their boxes and boxes of paper on site and we were working through their papers. And that was actually super, super fun. But COVID and 2020 put the kibosh on doing that in person. So continue doing those online. And that was another thing that we don't give ourselves permission to stop and do a project like that. And people were going through boxes of paper from old jobs or photos. I mean, if you're getting to the photos part, you're really getting deep in you're getting through your paper clutter, which is awesome. So I felt the palpable community accountability of just being on Zoom and going through papers. People were like, I would have never sat here, but for 3 to 4 hours going through this by myself. And they were finding, oh my God, I finally found my marriage certificate, or people were finding significant amounts of money.
Wow.
Gift cards, tender items, that, oh my gosh, the last letter my so-and-so ever wrote me, or, beautiful things like that, amongst 90% of Brent bills from 1997 that just had to go, right? But what fascinated me the most was when they kept saying, I would never still be sitting here if we weren't doing this together online. And there is some magic there too, because I felt it too. I mean, I wasn't just sitting there watching them. I was getting some stuff done as well. So I started to figure out, well, let's do more of these. Maybe we do them during the week. And I wound up slowly but surely putting together a calendar where we have a Sunday workshop where we get ready for the week. We have the Monday morning workshop that is called Start Your Week Strong. And that is the most magical workshop. I love that workshop so much. Everybody is so dialed in and it is so focused, and they run about 2.5 hours. And then there's another one on Wednesday. We call that one Winning Your Week, because the week is, it's hump day. What have you got done? What have you not got done? It's kind of just time to pay attention to how the week is floating. And then I have a fun one on Thursdays that's always free. It's called the Anti-Procrastination Power Hour. And again, it's like, do you have some nasty phone call you just don't want to make, and just knock that out, eat that frog. And then on Friday, we have Wrap Up Your Week, which is where you got to look back and look at what you did get done. So a little bit of celebration there in Wrap Up Your Week, tying things up, putting Post-it notes on things you didn't get done. And I sound like it's all work. There are sometimes people are doing physical things in their home. They are putting away laundry or organizing, or even had somebody doing drywall because she's redoing her house, but it's the community and the consistency and the accountability of knowing, okay, I've got this time bookmarked. And I've also found women tell me, I know I'm going to be coming together in a focus workshop, that I feel less guilty when I'm not in a workshop to hang out with my daughter or read a book or take a nap or play around a little bit, because I've already bookmarked these times. And so the full name of the membership is Find Focus and Fight Calm Together, because those are just things that we struggle to do on our own. And it's been going about 6 or 7 months. I have some people who've been in for 6 or 7 months, and they are finding the time to start a business. That's always my favorite one is they found that time to start a business. But some of them just, it's the community, with the way the world has been, the community aspect is huge, and the support of each other. It's just golden. It makes me so happy.
Well, and I love what you said, because I think that this is a problem that so many of us have, is that when we're at work, we're thinking about home, we're thinking about how we did not spend time with our significant other or our kids. And then when we're at home, we're thinking about work. And so what you're saying is that by doing these workshops, it's allowing people to be a little bit more present because they're not spending time thinking about the things that they have to do.
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly what it's a structure. When you have trouble putting structure on for yourself, there it is. Like, here is the structure. And I have so much fun connecting. We use Voxer. I don't know if you ever used Voxer. It's a walkie-talkie app. And I'm kind of behind the scenes talking to each member saying, okay, we got the next workshop. What are you working on? What's on your list? It is my favorite topic, is to find out what the resistance is. What are you procrastinating on? What can I cheerleader you on because you're not doing it and you're just continuing to feel like you're failing? So let's give it light. Let's say it out loud. What are you working on? I have a member she had a lot of medical issues. She changed jobs. She had a lot of medical bills, and she's in an insurance nightmare. And she can just feel the love of the community. Like, okay, so I got to make another phone call. It's like, all right, you got it. You can do this. The support of each other is, if you've had kids and you have one kid, you have your relationship with the one kid. And then if you have subsequent children, you have a relationship with each children. But when they have a relationship together, you're like, oh, that is amazing. And I feel a little bit that way with my members, because they all came to the focus workshop through me, but then they make the connections. And I'm like, that's the ripple effect. I love it so much.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, Ryan, where can people find you?
Well, my favorite places are Facebook and Instagram, Organizing for Good with a 4 in the URL. My website is organizingforgood.com. If you're interested in my book, it's right there at the top of the page. It's a PDF download. It is an ebook. It is not in print. Always feel like I need to say that. And there's a lot of templates in there to help you with your launch pads. So there's definitely some resources in there. So just via the website, Facebook, I have a really juicy free Facebook group called the Calm Collaborative. And that is I am just all about connection and community. And that is a fun place where we come together on Thursdays. I do a Facebook Live inside that group, and we have all the chats. We talk about overwhelm this week. And I do believe we will be having a guest speaker at the end of the month. Her name might be Elizabeth Sherman. I also do some really fun nonprofit shout out interviews. I have a YouTube channel. You can check that out. I interview women from area nonprofits, a lot of them that have started the nonprofit, and I get to hear their incredible stories about how they just saw a need and they started a nonprofit, like the Austin Diaper Bank and Austin Kids Can, and We Are Not Broken. I mean, hello, so good. Can I just say it? Women are amazing. We are amazing.
I think you're amazing.
I think you're amazing. So that works.
Okay, we are going to have all of your links up on the website. So in the show notes, if anyone listening wants to connect with Ryan, I highly, highly recommend it, because as you can tell, she is just a doll and she is just so delightful. So that's all we have for you today. Have an amazing week, everyone, and talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for listening. If the show resonates with you and you have a friend, mother, sister, or anyone else who you think would benefit, I'd love for you to share the podcast with them. You can leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts, which helps me create an amazing experience for you. And it helps other women who are done with dieting and want to get off the diet roller coaster to find it as well. See you next week.